He's been a steadfast supporter of Gamified and Simplified for dozens of episodes, giving us the most powerful insights in the history of the shows. That is until an abrupt illness sidelined him out of the blue, knocking him down but not out. It's my great pleasure to welcome back to the panel after a long absence, the ruler of RuneScape, the maven of Magic Eden, my dear friend and our beloved panelist. It's Nock.
Appreciate you guys. And before we get too wholesome here, I just want to mention thank you to everybody who's reached out. I know it's been a pretty chaotic little while. We've had Katie was a great mouthpiece, kind of sharing and disseminating some of the information about what was going on. Just a reminder, text somebody you love, check in on them. This shit happened real quick to me out of nowhere. Came pretty fucking close, but we're good. We're healthy. We're home. Check in on your loved ones. It'll be a good show today.
And he's so back, just like Web3 gaming. Nock, coincidence that Off the Grid released as your health was turning around in a good way? I think not. I think Nock probably saved Web3 gaming. Before we dive headfirst into the high-octane, pixel-pounding pandemonium that is Gamified, let's take a moment to acknowledge the real powerhouse making it all possible, Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified. We're here live in Buenos Aires at the AVAX Summit, where Avalanche is proving why it's king of the hill. Shout out to Hands Out.
Love you, Nock.
With its new Avalanche 9000, they're making it easier, cheaper, and more feature-packed than ever to deploy your very own Layer 1 blockchain and clap the competition. Imagine owning your own block space where your community validates your chain and your own token fuels the gas, keeping every bit of value right where it belongs. Remember that Avalanche is the engine powering Gamified. And let's high five the force field that's keeping your digital assets safe and sound. Our sponsor, StarNet, the official infrastructure of Gamified. StarNet is the next generation ad network powering the $100 billion spent per year on user acquisition. Instead of being owned by Google and Facebook, StarNet is owned by games and apps, creating a decentralized and equitable ad tech ecosystem. Join the revolution of ad tech, hit the thrusters, and let's dive into today's episode of Gamified. We're getting off with a very simple, kind of lighthearted one. What's the word for an 89-minute movie version of Hamlet filmed in Grand Theft Auto 5? This was filmed entirely in-game, a duo-stage production of Shakespeare's Hamlet during the pandemic. Grand Theft Hamlet, as it's called colloquially, is groundbreaking and necessary, as they claim, essentially in a time or especially in a time where more and more of our lives move online. The film's creator shared in a statement on its website, it had a UK debut at the London Film Festival yesterday and is going to be released in theaters in public in 2025. So what's the word for GTA 5's version of Hamlet? We got Dub kicking us off first.
Fuck, dude. Content's back. Like, theaters are back. Holy shit. I can't wait to watch this thing. That sounds beautiful. Dream come true. I mean, I can't put one word to it. It's like they did it. Fortnite said they were going to do it, and then GTA was like, nah, check this out. Full movie, baby. Out.
Len, you're up next, buddy.
All right, this is surreal. I remember when I saw this headline, I actually went and looked at it. I was pretty mind blown. And I've said many, many times on this panel how I'm like, Fortnite is the metaverse, and like all these Web3 projects want to do the metaverse, and Fortnite already did it. But also, arguably, GTA even beat them to it, because GTA has been out for like 10 years, and there's people actually like living inside there, driving around as like cab drivers and shit, and like that's their digital world, almost like a second life. So, and this is just proof again, like they're literally recreating Shakespeare in GTA. It's kind of insane and surreal, but also hilarious.
I want to go to the Jer Bear himself, the Golden God. It's Jerry.
Hey, hola, bienvenidos. Yeah, the word is who gives a fuck, dude. What are we doing, dude? Like, we could be playing fucking video games and having fun. Instead, these people want to watch Hamlet. Listen, here's the thing. Everybody who says that this is gonna be cool, just know that I keep receipts. And when it does come out and you have to pay money to watch it, I'm gonna say like, "Hey, Dub, did you watch it?" And when the answer is no, just know that this is why I always say time proves Jerry right.
Time proves Jerry right is something I hope I never have to say in the rest of my life. Real quick reminder, we have Infinigod's whitelist for the God Vaults to give away today. I almost forgot. I'm going to give it one to the next person that retweets the show, or somebody that's already retweeted the show, and then I'm going to give another one to somebody who gives Nock a big hearty welcome back and tags him in the comments. Shout out again. Let's go to Wild Paul next.
So this is like a live stream, like, because I actually didn't hear this news. Somehow I missed this news. And so this is like me live streaming my reaction to this news right now. It's fucking amazing. And I don't even know why it hadn't occurred to me before. Because, like, we've talked about on this show, especially game IP, turning into movies and films, everything else. And we've, like, brought up different examples of, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, like, I think the last one we were talking about was Warcraft, but then they had their movie and it sucked or whatever. We were talking about, I think, a World of Warcraft like movie or whatever. Anyway, I don't remember us talking about a GTA movie. But like the second now that I'm hearing this and looking at this, I'm like, God, it's so fucking obvious. Like, of course, it would make the ultimate. I want to see The Wire as a TV show done in the GTA universe. That would be my ultimate. But anyway, like, yeah, this. I mean, I think everybody knows, but even if you think you know the scale of GTA's success in terms of number of people reached and the amount of money it's generated, you would be wrong. You would be underestimating. So this might just end up being the biggest movie launch of all time. That's my live take.
What?
The big what?
Yeah, I
That
know.
would
I
be
know.
incredible. An 89-minute version of Hamlet in
Bigger
Grand Theft.
than Avatar. Yeah, I don't know about this Hamlet part. Okay, like that part is weirding me out.
Yeah, maybe Hamlet is what's like not
But
doing it for
but I don't
me.
know. Did you
But
guys see? Okay, so there are some truly great Hamlet adaptations out there. My favorite recent one was that TV show Station 11. Nobody knows that that's like a Hamlet thing, but it is, and it was so amazing. It's like this sci-fi thing. So yeah, that part is really weird. But honestly, to me, I see that now. Again, this is my live reaction. I'll shut up. As as a bullish thing because the fact that they wouldn't just be doing the obvious thing that they're like trying to break new ground even when it comes to like telling a story as a movie in the GTA, that's good. I wouldn't want them to do the obvious, like kind of just some executives got around and said, hey, let's make a GTA movie, it'll be amazing, and just doing like the most obvious thing. So to me, the fact that they're taking some risks here is a good thing.
I've been waiting a long time to say this. Knock, over to you, buddy.
Yo, somehow I'm the one who spent the last month in a coma, but I'm the only person here who remembers the game mode. The word is evolution. I grew up in the RuneScape music video era, and if you guys don't know what those are, just type in Headstrong by Trapped RSMV. It is a fucking incredible video. But this is the sort of transmedia IP that we don't talk about, right? We talk about the move from traditional games into the world of music videos and movies. What we don't often talk about is the inverse, and we've been seeing this for the last 20 years. I don't really care much for the fact that it's Hamlet. I think it's kind of weird that this is what they chose to go live with. But I do think we're going to see a lot more of this happen as tools become more readily available to the people who are creating things in these universes. We've seen a lot of interesting things come out of the Fortnite space. We've seen things like real life Saw experience in the Fortnite metaverse and some of the things that people have been able to create there. I think you'll see more and more in this happen over the course of the next couple of years, especially as teams begin to create tools that really fun and creative people can use to create these sort of movies. So I'm excited that this is happening in GTA. Feels like another big moment leading into GTA 6, but this isn't really new. We've had some version of traditional media leaking backwards into the gaming ecosystem and people getting creative with it for the last 20 years. I want to see how it continues to evolve. But the word, because this is the game mode, is evolution.
Knock still locked in even after all that time. I want to also point out that Skibbity Toilet is one of the most viral memes on the entire internet right now. And it is also made in a video game engine. So this is becoming more and more of a thing. Let's send it over to Senjen. And then we have Camel joining us from the audience.
What's the word? Fucking brilliant. My son recently did his first Shakespeare soliloquy acting thing like this, and he asked me, Dad, like, what could I watch? And I said, there's Romeo plus Juliet. And he watched it and he said, that was pretty fucking cool. But here's the brilliance is that the fact that they picked Hamlet, this will live forever. If they had done like some other kind of genre where it's like kind of wouldn't have that juxtaposition of like that difference of using the GTA universe with something so classical like Hamlet. And now every single kid for the rest of their lives, they're going to have this there to watch it. And it's going to live fucking forever. And if they really want to display what it could do, this was the best fucking choice, you fucking stupid peons.
Stupid peons. Jaxie in the comments says, knock his back. Who had 5 words before he mentions RuneScape because you would have won a prize? It didn't take long. He's still the man we always knew. Camel joining us from the audience. Shout out to Sugartown. Over to you, buddy.
What's up, Sam? Yeah, I don't give a fuck about the GTA movie because Knock is back. Welcome back, buddy. You've been sorely missed on the timeline. I'm sick of seeing all these floor takes from all these floor accounts on stage, floor builders, floor gaming influencers. We have Knock back, and that is literally all I have to add to the conversation, Sam. I'm not going to sit here and chill. I'm not going to sit here and participate. I'm here to glaze Knock and glaze Knock exclusively.
A man
Wow.
of
Well, you knock that one out, Camel.
Dub, over to you. What's the word, buddy?
Yeah, dude. And I just need to defend. I was going to defend Hamlet because how the hell do you FUD Hamlet? Like, to be or not to be does not exist without Hamlet. Like, fucking get real over here. And first of all, you can't have Hamlet until, like, then The Sopranos, then The Wire. This is going to be great. Like, I can't wait to do this. I'm going to be paying $10 on my Sui Play device to fucking watch this. I don't care. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm trying to get big Oliver. Oh, Oliver's already up here. We're going to move on to the next topic, though. Thanks for dealing with my Grand Theft Auto opener. Appreciate that. Gamified listener and Web2 behemoth says Axie Infinity has nothing on what Off the Grid has achieved. Okay, Gabriel Leydon, you might have heard of him, the founder of Limit Break and Digidagaku, claimed that Web3 finally has its new, quote, Axie, unquote, moment with Off the Grid. Axie was a pioneer that all brought us all here. Not the best at grammar, but he's locked in other ways. But he says it's been years and the space needs a new North Star. Very inspirational is how he ended that statement. I followed up by asking, do you think that this one will be as impactful on the market without a coin going parabolic, the same way that Axie's did? And I put in parentheses, yet. And he said, first crypto game on consoles, streamed by all major streamers without any crypto controversy. I would say yes. It already has a as big or bigger impact than Axie. A couple of quick stats. Off the Grid had 5.5 million wallet addresses last time I checked, I think on Saturday. 53 million transactions. Top 3 shooter game on Twitch. Over 1 million hours streamed, watched. Combined impressions and reach of the game, I've been told, is over 800 million impressions since they launched a week ago. The former CEO of Machine Zone says that this is a bigger deal than Axie. Oliver Maroney had the hand up first. Do you agree, buddy?
There's some points that I agree and some points that I'd say they're equal in a lot of ways. These are way different genres of games here. We're talking about very different approaches, and they both bring a very unique and different audience. I think this is the evolution of Web3 gaming happening before our eyes. I'd say that just because at the start it was much more about play to earn and like the earning side of it versus the actual game or gameplay itself. And now we're getting into true real gamers getting the hand on a game and playing it and actually complimenting it and liking it. Tim the Tapman coming out and saying this is his game. Did I think that would happen this year? Absolutely not. Like a Web 2 streamer, or sorry, I want to remove this whole Web 2, Web 3 thing. It's getting confusing now. I'm tired of it. Tim the Tapman was someone I watched probably religiously throughout COVID and playing Warzone. And a lot of these guys, Ninja paved the way for a lot of what is today content creators and streamers and all the different platforms that are now being streamed or you can stream on. And so for me, it's just two very different arguments here, or like two very different sides of this. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to what he's saying here. I think the one thing I would say is, like I said, this is an evolution that we're watching happen before our eyes. And I think seeing guys like a Tim seeing the value, Shroud talking about blockchain and why it's important, that's like such a huge step in the right direction for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're off the grid or if you're the indie game studio that's just starting out building Web3. And I was at a dinner the other night at this Avalanche Summit thing that we've been at, and there was a content creator that at the table was like, this is so good for us because we have a game that we can stream that actually has Web3 components in it and people can trust it and like it. And so we're getting to that next evolution, and I don't want to go ramble on for any more, but it is very inspirational from a lot of different areas here that people are taking this seriously. They're commenting on it, they're talking about it, and a lot of it is organic. Yes, they paid streamers to stream and things like that, but people are actually streaming this organically. Guys, I think Iceman Isaac is a pretty well-known Warzone streamer, said, I'm not sponsored. This has nothing to do. I don't know the team, but he's streaming it and playing it because he loves it. And that to me is like very compelling for the future of Web3 gaming. And so from that perspective, I would say yes, it is more impactful than potentially Axie, but it's an evolution. Axie was the thing. Now we're moving on to this next thing, and I don't know what the next thing after this will be, but we should be living in the moment and saying, yeah, absolutely, let's live in this, let's watch this, let's enjoy it, feel it, because it is pretty powerful and inspirational. For a lot of us who've been banging the drum like, this is the way, this is the way, we have our golden nugget, the shining star right there, and we should all be cheering them on, regardless of what game you work for, or game studio, or marketplace, or this or that or the other thing. It's very compelling for the entire space, and it brings more people in.
Big stuff from Oliver Maroney. Let's send it over to Sinjin next. Sinjin, is Gabe a Chad or chump for this, and is it a bigger moment than Axie?
Oh, I'm biased because me and Gabe are besties, so he's always a Giga Chad to me. Don't buy the meme coin. But like nothing will take away the significance of Axie. Like that's really the seed of Web3. And that's fairly undeniable. You can say CryptoKitties obviously was an inspiration to Axie, but Axie is what's really kicked it off. But why is this so much more impactful? Um, you know, the user base. It's a console game. It's a PC game. It's really hitting into the worldwide player base, but a type of player base that's not looking at this for economic substance, but rather just as a game being introduced to it. And so many theses are proved here: the abstraction of wallet, orbit, or whatever secondary, whatever chains you want to call it. This is answering a lot of questions that a lot of people have, and it's the first example of it right here and right now in tangible form. The game itself probably needs another year of polish or 8 months or whatever like that. And, it's smart for them not to release a token now. Who knows what they're going to do? But, let these motherfuckers cook. And, they got a plan and they've had a plan. And this also puts into the entire question, build in public, what's AAA, but the other thing though too is that what's fantastic about this fucking game is that it's a AAA game with new fucking IP. And that IP is so integrated in the gameplay. It is just amazing on so many levels that, you can't like take this moment and say this is not one of those seminal moments now in, when Web3 is going to be written. Again, nothing's going to take the place of Axie Infinity, but in terms of just the pure impact and where it's headed, oh fuck, man, that's my boy Gabe, the fucking Giga Chad.
Shout out to Icy. Icy says special episode today. Knock makes his return after a terrible health scare. Tune in. Beautiful message to check in on your loved ones. Icy's gonna get one of those God Vault whitelists. Also, Jaxie coming in with a couple of great comments. He says way bigger than Axie. I don't know if we see that pump, but we definitely see more people coming in and playing. They won't be playing anything else though, which is an interesting comment. Maybe we won't see that rotation. And then we're also going to give a whitelist to the modern CDN. He gave us a retweet and he's dropping some great comments as well. Appreciate you guys. We're going to keep moving through the hands though. Let's go to Wild Paul, and then Wills is with us here in person. He's got a muy caliente take on this one, but first we go to Paul.
I also have a muy caliente take, and I grew up in Miami, so I know what muy caliente means. I okay, look, guys, I'm gonna channel what this show is all about, what Gamified is all about. Gamified is about
Let's
truth.
go.
It's not about what we want to hear. It's not about what we wish was true. It's about exposing and talking about truths, whether we like them or not. So I'm gonna try to do that here, okay? What we saw happen last week was both the best thing ever and the scariest thing ever. First of all, Gabe is absolutely right. He is a Giga Chad. I'm actually his bestie, not Sinjin. You can ask him. We'll see what he says. but St. John and I
You
are
liar.
besties,
Let's
so
ask
it's
him. He's in
okay.
Tokyo right now. I'm gonna see him in Tokyo next week, you fucker.
Actually, just so everybody's clear, Katie is actually his bestie. I go to bed
Yes,
early,
this
and
is
Katie's the
true.
one that just like stays up with the group
Yes.
talking to. So anyway, that she's the actual
Okay,
bestie.
we're gonna
I'm
put
gonna
Gabe
move
in the
on.
middle, and
Yeah.
everybody's gonna say his name, and we'll see who he runs through.
We're evoking Gabe. Okay, but here's the truth bomb. And Gabe would actually be the first person. I had this Twitter thread with somebody last week where they were like trying to guess how much the marketing costs to activate this many influencers at the scale. And they were like, gosh, do you guys think that whoever it was, I don't know the inside baseball of this. I don't know if it was AVAX. I don't know if there's other people involved funding this, but whoever it is, they were like, gosh, do you think they spent $1 million? And I'm like, you mean an hour, a day, or like they? And of course they meant the whole campaign. And I'm like, yo, like this level of coverage that you just saw happen inorganically was minimum $1 million a day, more likely $3 million a day of paid influencer marketing to activate what they did last week. So the bad news, or not the bad news, but the scary thing is the only way that continues for a brand new IP that, although we all saw it and we saw those Twitch impressions and everything else last week, reality of it is that only reached 1% of 1% of gamers. If you literally asked anyone out there on the street who's a typical, even core gamer, what's off the grid, they'd be like, what's what? Like, they have no idea what you're talking about yet. So now, it's all about whether that continues or not. And I don't know their plan, but like Sinjin said, they've executed well so far. So they probably know what comes next. And they probably have a plan for it. But unless that plan is executed well, what happened last week won't matter, except for the fact that if I were the CEO of that company and I were executing on whatever that plan is that I don't know, I'd be like, fuck yeah, guys, we did it. And did it is defined as we paid a bunch of people to shill our game, but they actually fucking liked it, legitimately, authentically liked it, and shared experiences of liking it. But that is not the holy grail that you guys think it is. And if Gabe were here, he would say, cool, now we wait and see. Are they going to do what needs to happen next and either navigate the inevitable decline off that high because they're not spending $3 million a day anymore because they can't afford it, or they're going to do the thing that is the other path, which is, okay, we're competing in the bloodiest red ocean against other battle royales and other FPSs. So the only way this works with a brand new IP, no matter how good it is an ongoing $1 to $3 million a day budget. How long can we keep that going? And you guys saw some of that conversation happening around, like, especially from Gabe, like, how much did AVAX's market cap go up? What if they spent 10% of that on ongoing marketing for OTG? Like, yeah, exactly. That's what it looks like. That's the math that happens in a mature publisher in this kind of moment. So I am here to share that truth, also to slightly guilt the people who are behind this into, in case they don't have that plan, realize you got to keep going. You can't. That moment wasn't enough, but it was the right first step, and you should. We should all celebrate it as the greatest thing, because a lot of times what happens is a company tries to do this and they don't get that authentic engagement. Those people that really like it, and then it's the worst outcome. There's no coming back from that. But now it's all going to depend on what happens next. Can the company continue to support this? Or do they have a plan, if they're not going to support this, to manage the inevitable decline and then the organic growth back up, which will of course happen? And how are they going to manage that? But one or two of those paths needs to be happening. Otherwise, none of us could say that this is going to be the biggest moment ever, the next Axie. But we can say it now could be. And it just depends on what happens next.
Wow, very measured. I want to send it over to Wills because I think he wants to expand on this in an interesting way. But this is a great discussion already. Excited to see what the rest of the hands think.
I'm so glad I got to go after Paul. I was terrified that I was going to have to give my shit take and then he'd come in and wreck me. But it sounds like we agree, which is exciting. I think that just what Off the Grid has done, in my opinion, is put a band-aid on the damage that Axie did to the Web 2 gamers' perception of Web 3 gaming, of what it can be and how these games can onboard users and interact with them, and that they can just be normal games. Because, Axie was big, but nobody outside of the degen and financial investing tradfi circles was talking about it. I found out about Axie from a banker at Apollo. That goes to show you the kind of people that were talking about it and the way it was being discussed. It wasn't it was a game. It was a financial system and like a way to make money first and a game second. And Off the Grid very precisely and very measuredly is trying to counter that narrative. And in the live panel that we were doing just before this, I said this as well. I think that they are taking it slow and steady. They are making sure that at no point they're going to Web3 that it scares people away. I think what we got out of this launch. I think as Paul said, we got a massive amount of marketing. We got public eyes on the game. We also got a Forbes article that said this game is Web3, and that might not be horrible. That's huge, but that is the damage that Axie did, and we're just now starting to see that perception shift. So yeah, that's where I think the big win for Off the Grid
And,
is.
and by the way, that's why it's so important to me. And I think, Gabe, to plea for whoever's funding the marketing behind this game to keep going, because the reality of it is, you guys, you have a game that's good enough. If you stick with it, this can be the thing that you ride to Valhalla. But what happens with a lot of publishers, and I know Gabe and I are familiar with this, is this next part is the hardest part to stay committed to. That transition from inorganic to organic, and continuing to kind of prop up with inorganic marketing dollars while the game, like Sinjin said, goes through that next year of polish and refinement that it needs. That's a tremendous amount of commitment. That's another $100 million or more that is going to need to be poured in to get there. But I just want those people who are making that decision, who maybe are on this show or listening, to know you have a game that's good enough. Stay with it, have the faith, and and commit.
So interesting to hear that piled on top of this discussion, because one of the questions I have around this whole off the grid saga is we've seen a lot of games come and do a marketing push. We saw this with, I believe, the finals. We saw it with Spectre Divide recently. I think we saw it with X Defiant as well, where essentially they can't come, do a marketing push, get a lot of attention, and then actually go back into development for 3 or 6 months and polish the game a bit more, take that user feedback, implement it, etc. But it sounds like from Paul's perspective, they should literally just keep the live ops going,
Well,
even
actually,
in.
I mean, that thing you just said, that could be the alternate strategy I was talking about. And if that's their plan, that's a great plan too. But it's the middle ground that is so disastrous, when it's like, well, we're going to take away all the marketing dollars, but we're still going to just expect this game to grow from here because it's good. And it's like, no, that's not that. Then you get the disastrous outcome.
Interesting. Okay, I see Knock slamming the 100 emoji. Curious to hear him expand on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is obviously incredibly exciting for all of the reasons that everybody on the panel has mentioned as it pertains to Web3. I think it's an interesting position to be in terms of breaking into the traditional, more Web2 streamers and ecosystem. Um, I'm gonna go with a little exercise here, and I'm willing to bet that most people who are listening right now have either forgotten these games existed or never even knew they existed to begin with. All of which are really exciting battle royales that all of the same streamers streamed for weeks on end, and then it just disappeared into the ether. Rumbleverse is one of them. Hyperscape is another one. You should have seen something out of Spellborn, or I think it was called Spellcast or something of that nature. There's tons of games that have come in, got the attention of the same types of streamers, the people who play BRs pretty much religiously, and then after a week or two, they go back to one of two games, right? It's Fortnite, it's something to do with Warzone, some version of what's going on with Call of Duty, or if they're an old head, they jump back into PUBG because that's just what they know and that's what they've played forever. All of those games, I would argue, were more exciting. And frankly, in the case of Rumbleverse, I would say probably even better than most of the BRs that exist today. But it's a really cutthroat genre to be playing in. Now, I have faith in the Off the Grid team. I think that they're one of the best teams in the space. I think what they've done with the game itself is incredible. And I think Off the Grid is better, like full stop, than all of those games that I just mentioned. But it's a really tricky space to try and keep the attention of. October 25th is going to be a really interesting day. It's when Call of Duty Black Ops 6 comes out. With it will be a new version of what is Warzone. It'll be interesting to see if some of the names that we've brought up still continue to play off the grid with any sort of frequency over the next little while, or if it's a flash in the pan like we have seen in the past. The biggest streamers right now who are currently streaming off the grid on Twitch are TP, Huskers, Iceman Isaac, and Enoch, all of which are involved in the BR space, all of which usually play Warzone, all of which are excited about the upcoming Black Ops 6. So I think timing was perfect. You launched 2-3 weeks ahead of what's going on with Black Ops. That was no accident. They know what they were doing. It is a pretty close comparison to some combination of Warzone meets Apex. And you've got a group of players who are waiting for Warzone and are tired of Apex. It was perfect timing in terms of when this launches. It gives people a taste for what Off the Grid has to offer. It'll be curious to see if they continue to play it once Warzone comes out with the new version or whatever the update may be. Um, but I think as far as a launch into the traditional Web 2 world goes, you couldn't have asked for something better. Everybody was paying attention to it. Everybody genuinely enjoyed it. You saw clips from guys like Tim and Shroud talking about the actual economics of how this works, how you can trade limbs, how you can trade weapon parts. There were some concerns that were brought up, but what was happening was a real healthy conversation about whether or not we like these things. It wasn't a, this is a crypto game, fuck crypto. And for me, that's encouraging because it started to shift the mindset of a lot of these players. You saw big names have fun, people like the types of streamers that people look up to, the types of streamers that influence purchasing decisions when it comes to what games we're going to be playing. Were not shitting on the game because there was a crypto element. They were curious. They were having conversation about whether or not this fit into what they want and what they believe a game should have. So I'm really excited about the future prospects for Off the Grid. But to say that this is a bigger moment than Axie, I'm gonna have to agree with or disagree with Gabe here. Axie led into one of the biggest blockchains for gaming in the space. What that allowed to happen downstream was something that literally changed what Web3 gaming ecosystem looks like. This has the potential to be that big, but for me, it feels very premature to say a weekend of paid placement is a bigger moment than literally the I would say ecosystem defining game, which was Axie Infinity, that really brought traditional Web 2 folks to take a look in the space, regardless of what they thought of it. I don't think it's quite there yet. I think it has all the potential in the world to do so. I think the team is incredible. They have the backing of AVAX. Love those guys. And I think they know more than probably just about anybody else in the space what they're doing. But this is like step one of 1,000. And there needs to be a lot more growth long term and plenty of competitors around the corner with the holiday season. So I think this is the ground floor. They have all the potential in the world. Absolutely, it's not bigger than Axie today.
I love his ability to always bring it back to the crux of or the origin question, if you will. Chris Zach also chimes in on that note. He says, WTF, I can't listen to people criticizing Axie's success. Sky Mavis was the first to actually pull it off and sustain it. They are the reason you know about Web3 gaming in the first place. Sailing through uncharted waters takes brave souls. I appreciate it. I think that's a fair take there, Chris. Sorry to everybody that's had their hand up. I know we're taking a long time to get through the panel, but I think this discussion is absolutely incredible and super high level with diverse takes. So appreciate that. I'm going to go to Sinjin up next, and we're going to tag in Camel.
Yeah, just really quickly, what Will said about like how I just want to make this kind of correction because, some of us were really there at the moment. And I'll say this, how big Axie Infinity was so fucking huge. The government of the Philippines was actually going to tax Axie revenues. It literally went to the legislative floor. The whole country was on fire. And if you were in Asia and you were in gaming and you were in guilds, you were talking about Axie Infinity. That may have not made it out into the US side or Australia as much because of the types of gamers, these guys were targeting. But whole villages were playing Axie Infinity. So I don't want to minimize that part. And the other part, just to knock, is that, you know what? Like, why I think this is really important is because certain theses were proved, right? Like account abstraction, the idea of an orbit chain. These things move us forward in this space. And here's the biggest thing yet. We always talk about a fun game. A fun game is like the minimum, but massive check mark. If they have that, then the Web3 element that comes in afterwards, and if it's fucking 10x, motherfucker, here we motherfucking go.
Yeehaw, brother. I do want to send it over to Wills real quick to see if he has anything he'd like to sort of rebuttal with, and then we'll go to Camel.
No, I mean, Axie was big, and it established that you could monetize people in this way. But the scenario that you set out, Sinjin, in Asia, in guilds, I remember hearing from the banker at Apollo that people were quitting their jobs to play this game. And that was cool when they were making money. But what about when these people who were promised, only up, everyone making money together, were left out by the wayside when the token crashed? And this is the reason that the reason it attracted regulation was because it was gambling. It was just raw gambling on these matches and what the price of the token was going to do. And that's the distinction that I think people in Web3 are worried about addressing. Like, at what point, like, what's the difference between a Web3 game and gambling? And I feel like that's something that hasn't really come up a huge amount. And I know that there are people on this panel who are trying to answer that question, but I think Axie much more appealed to the gamblers than it did to the gamers, and that's what I think Off the Grid is fixing.
Great takes, Wills. Let's go over to Camel next.
Yep, I have like 30 seconds. I have another call, but I'm not going to sit here and compare Off the Grid to Axie. I think they're apples and pancakes. That's just my opinion. I think also Gabe, he has me blocked, funny enough, but I think he's one of the smartest people in games as a whole, not just in Web3 games. Like, this guy could sell a used car, like a used fucking Civic, to a billionaire. That being said, I think Off the Grid, what it's done is it's sparking the renaissance for on-chain gaming. Like, there's so many more, I call them Web 2.5 users, that are becoming more curious about what other games utilize blockchain technology because of the success of the campaign of Off the Grid. I hope, like what Paul was saying, that they keep the fuel on the fire. But in the meantime, there's so many more users. I've talked to 4 different people today that are getting back into crypto because of Off the Grid. Like, to me, that is the most successful thing in Web3 games that we've seen in years. I could keep going, but I have to run. I have another important call. If you guys want to keep the convo going, DM me because I have a lot of hot takes. Oh, also,
Appreciate you.
Knock, I love you.
Love you too, buddy.
Appreciate you jumping on, brother. Have a great call. Couple more great comments. Appreciate everybody chiming in the audience. It's great to see something that people want to discuss in such depth. It's one of my favorite things in the space. Lunarity says, to piggyback on what Knox said, all those games from the past didn't have anywhere near the amount of coverage that OTG did. Rumbleverse maybe, but Hyperscape, Spellborn, and those weren't nearly as popular. Off the Grid is also similar enough to Apex and Warzone to steal some of those players, which would be interesting. Lunarity, I'm going to give you one of those God Vault whitelists from Infinigods. Let's go over to Jerry next, and then we'll tag in Oliver Maroney, then back to Wild Paul.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick here, Sam, because I think I've talked about this more than anybody on your spaces for the last couple of weeks, so people generally know where I stand. But I think, first of all, Gabe is a super Chad. But I think the thing that Gabe is best at is engagement farming, you fuckers. And he knows what he's doing, and he's that is his one superpower, I think, is he knows how to rile all you up. I think that this is massive and huge for our space, and and first of all, let me say one thing. People who are like, "Oh, they paid people." Like, shut the fuck up, man. Everybody does it. It's what you have to do when you're shipping a PC or console title, or you fail, right? So we want them to succeed. Encourage the teams and the ecosystems and the chains who are supporting these teams and these games to spend money on their distribution when they launch their fucking game. Let's just clear that up and stop saying, "Oh, they paid people." Right? Now, let's talk about the fact that they paid people. And let's talk about other games that have very similar comps in Twitch viewership stats. Because, and I'm using Twitch viewership a lot with this because we don't know their player numbers, but I think we can use Twitch as a proxy and viewership as a proxy for people who might be playing the game or gauging interest. The comps are matched really well for Off the Grid to the finals, but are actually a little bit worse than X Defiant did. And there's one key metric that I think I look at, and that's unique channels that are streaming it. And Off the Grid performs worse in those, but comparable in the terms of like the viewership for the big days where they paid people. Now, X Defiant and Finals did really poorly post paying people because they had a leaky bucket, right? Paul talks about this a lot. Nock talks about this a lot. I talk about this a lot. But when you have a leaky bucket, it doesn't matter how much you spend, you will fail. So, I think it's really important to start to get the message out and the organic coverage from the Forbeses, from, type in off the grid, you'll see some fucking random obscure website talking about it. And those things have viewership, those people who are streaming it right now to 4 viewers, like that matters. So these things are all important. Like for what St. John said, is it's proving theses out that we've all talked about for a long time, that people have been arguing about. Like, is account abstraction important? We now know, yes, it is. So, proving out these theses is great, but to say that this is bigger than Axie, like we just don't know the windfalls of what happens when you pay people, $5 to $10 million to cover your game. We don't know that yet because we don't know. We will have to have this conversation, and like it's fun to have now, but we'll know the answer in 6 months' time or a year time. Now, where I do agree with Gabe, and I think like taking the engagement farm out, you cannot call this bigger than Axie. Like you cannot today. But if Off the Grid continues to make good decisions, and we've all known these guys for a couple of years now, they have made great decisions at every step along the way. I believe that they will continue to make great decisions at every step along the way and only learn from these things and see the failures like X Defiant and the finals, learn from what they did wrong and do those things right. I think this could be 10x of what Axie was in 2021.
Great stuff, Jerry. Erica also chiming in the comments says, should OTG have waited with this massive influencer push until the game was more polished and ready to go? I think this is an interesting expansion of the topic because everybody has been so astounded with how polished they let it get. What developed, what point they allowed it to get to by developing it for 5 years before releasing it. And instead, maybe asking if it's actually not polished enough. A lot of the optimization issues of people with graphics cards that are worse than like 3070s not being able to play. I'm going to send it over to Oliver Maroney next.
Okay, so I got a couple of points here. One being, I'll address this paid streamer thing because I think it's important. Paul touched on this, but I want to like even scale it back further. There was an argument not that long ago that streamers just would not, regardless if they're paid or not, play a game with Web3 elements in it. Period. Point blank. I don't think people saw a Ninja, a Tim the Tatman, a Nadeshot, a whoever it may be, streaming or playing a game that had any Web3 elements. Period. Point blank. Doesn't matter how much they were paid or offered. So I think it's already validating that if the game is good enough, they will play it. And I understand that people are like, oh, they're paying, this and that. And to Paul's point, I think it is crucial to continue to put fuel on the fire if you can do that. But I think what will be interesting, and it was touched on as well, the BO6, Call of Duty launch is a couple of weeks away. One thing to note here is that it is a multiplayer game typically, or traditionally when Call of Duty is released, it releases a multiplayer game, and then they add features to it, and they add the BR later down the road. The Warzone's still around, but I think the update to the actual Warzone and like Verdansk coming back is somewhere in like Q1, Q2 territory. So I think given that, what will be interesting to see in a few weeks is how many people will be playing BO6 and how many people will be playing Off the Grid at that point. Nock kind of pointed this out as well. They're different games at this point, different game modes. One is multiplayer, one is a BR. I think it will be a telling sign as to if people are streaming both or one or the other. And Call of Duty absolutely does paid marketing for all of these. If you don't know that, they spend a lot of money on marketing and they get a lot of streamers on board during that first week or two of launch. And so it will be interesting to see how many of these streamers play COD for a few hours and then say, okay, I'm going to go play Off the Grid now because that's the game I actually, started enjoying regardless if I'm paid or not. So that will be a very interesting and key point to make. And then the third final piece of this that I find really interesting, actually, sorry, there's two more pieces, sorry. One piece, the marketplace, Nock, you mentioned like all these other games that had like the finals and things like that. I actually think the marketplace element, based on what Shroud and others have said, makes this game more compelling. And the Web3 elements actually add something to this puzzle. I don't know if it's true and it can't be proven just yet, but I think CSGO is a shining example of what can happen if it does go right. And so there is this optimism in my mind that this is slightly different. And the last piece I will say on this Axie versus OTG thing is that there could be an argument to be made that if it weren't for Axie, OTG may not be here. I don't know the team was building then or not, but I think Axie made a lot of the Web3 gaming possible. Web3
Yeah.
gaming was inevitable, as Sam would say.
Well, the fact that we call it the Axie
They
moment.
made it possible. I think for a lot of these teams to fundraise and for VCs to feel comfortable putting money into some of these games. And so for that reason, there's a very, very strong argument to be made that it maybe can't be bigger yet because of that.
Yeah, I think like with most things, the answer is actually probably in the middle here, and I'm sorry if I'm front running Knox point, which is it actually was bigger to show what a tokenized economy has the potential to do, and off the grid is bigger in the sense that it actually allows us to see a Web3 game that Web2 people will embrace because the quality of it is just high enough. And those two things can be in tandem and sort of equally true, and hopefully off the grid does become bigger because it leads to mass adoption, but that doesn't necessarily take anything away from what Axie was able to add to the ecosystem of Web3 gaming in general. Let's go to Knock, and then Paul I think is having some audio issues. Hopefully we get him back in a sec.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and pull back the curtain here a little bit and explain this dynamic with streamers because I've seen a lot of people on the timeline kind of equate, streamers playing the game with future successes of that title. And I think it's important to understand that streamers are entertainers by nature, and their business and their livelihoods depend entirely on their ability to attract viewers to their channels, to watch their videos, to donate, to subscribe, to make sure that they're participating within their ecosystem. And the way that they do that is by playing either the hottest game that most recently came out, i.e., something like Off the Grid, or we've seen things like TCG Simulator pop up and blow up on Twitch over the last couple of weeks, or playing a long-standing multiplayer game that has an existing user base that loves the game and would like to watch additional content with that title because they've been playing the game for so many years. I can promise you, and I know because I have firsthand experience in the space, that your favorite streamer or your favorite gaming content creator absolutely fucking despises the game that they make content on the most frequently. They hate the game that they stream 24 hours a day. They hate the game that they make YouTube videos, 4 or 5 of them, a week, because they are trapped in a cycle of only being able to play that game. There's a reason why we distinguish variety streamers from other streamers in the space because there are so few people who can have an audience follow them between a shooter on Monday, TCG Simulator on Tuesday, and into just chatting on Wednesday. It is a very, very limited group of people. Everybody else falls into a bucket. You're a BR player, or you're a tactical shooter player, or you're a arena shooter player, or you're playing sports games. You are stuck in those buckets. So anytime a streamer streams something that isn't their main game or the game that makes them money, they have to do a value equation in their head. Am I going to generate enough money playing this game for this day to offset the fact that I will see a decrease in viewers today? I'm playing something that isn't my usual title. Fewer people are going to tune into me. We saw this in real time when Ninja started streaming Final Fantasy. We've seen him not really give a fuck anymore because he's got more money than God. But whenever he streams something that isn't his main title, you see a massive dip in viewership. And this is true for all top streamers. Now, what's exciting, and I think Oliver kind of alluded to this, is that a lot of the guys who were paid to play off the grid were having these conversations around the fact that you own things in the game. And I think a lot of them were starting to do the math in their head. Is there a value exchange here? Is this something that could offset the loss in viewership? Is this a reason why I might play this game a little more frequently because I'm genuinely enjoying it? And I've got another 2 or 3 ways to earn some additional revenue, whether that be sponsorship or the ability to sell some of the items that they own, and therefore I'll continue to play this game at the expense of viewership? I don't know that the answer to that is yes, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that guys like Tim and Shroud were doing that math in their head when they were talking about this. So it's important to understand that when you're seeing a content creator, they are not playing games because the game is good or because they like the game. They're playing those games because it makes them money. It's the brand that they've created. And most of them will go play the game that they actually want to play off stream. And you've heard this from dozens of creators. Oh, this is the game I have to play off stream. This isn't something I can play on Twitch or on YouTube because I'll lose my viewership and I'll lose my income. I think for the first time, Off the Grid has opened the mind of a lot of these creators into thinking maybe this Web3 element offers some form of equalization when it comes to the value trade-off. That's what's exciting to me. Now, Off the Grid has a fuckload of work to do to make that a reality, and it's yet to be seen whether or not you're going to have a strong enough organic player base to keep people excited long term. But I do think it's starting to shift the mind of a lot of these creators who have to make these calculated trade-offs when they play something that isn't their main title.
Great takes, Knock. Appreciate all that added shade and coloring from your experience being, I don't know what you would call it, a streamer manager in esports, uh, acrobat. I don't know, I'm lost for words. Let's go to Wild Paul, then we'll tag it OG.
Can you guys hear me okay right now?
Yeah, you sound good, bro.
All right, sweet, because my freaking iPhone crashed right in the middle. I swear I'm not going to go on a rant right now, but I'm going to just go on a rant. Like, what the fuck is Apple doing, man? This last couple months on the iPhone, holy shit, it's bad. And I know they're like,
It's tune in from your Vision
it's because
Pro.
of all this AI shit, and they're like, but it's Steve Jobs would have never chased like they're chasing right now, and been willing to sacrifice their products. Okay, I'm gonna shut up about that. Let me talk about this.
Android.
And yeah, I do have Android, and I'm switching over to that, using more on a daily basis. Okay, look, first of all, I'm not going to go on for too long. We've been on this topic for a while, but I just want you guys to know, like, the way I often talk and connect with this group of people and gamified is like, it's almost like you're my team. Like that, I was just realizing as I was writing some notes for what I wanted to say, I was like, this is like stuff I would say to my team. And I just kind of look at you guys as all that. Like, we're all on Team Web3 and we want it to succeed. And we really are all in the same bucket of working on this and putting our time and money and efforts into this. And it's like, just feels like a team effort. And I love that. So if I were talking to my team right now, I'd be like, guys, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so, like, you know, please understand, like we've all been saying, like, this is just step 1 of 1,000 or whatever. But when I'm doing that with my team, I also want to celebrate the successes that happen along the way, even when we're still running the marathon. And I just really wanted to underline this point of what actually happened last week. We all saw that it turns out that if you have a good enough game, Web3 isn't going to stop that game from being successful. So let's just stop for a moment and fucking set off the fireworks and cheer to the rafters, because that is a huge fucking deal. Like, I before last week, that could have been a debate. That actually could have been something that people were like, yeah, no, I don't know, man. Even like a good game might just fail when you try to get Ninja up there playing it, or Shroud, or whoever it was, because they're so embarrassed about it being Web3 or whatever. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. It turns out we were right, y'all, that if the game is good enough, it doesn't matter if it's Web3. It's, in fact, not only is it not a liability, you guys saw the same thing I did, which is some of those streamers started to recognize the value of it being a Web3 title, which is fucking incredible. So while we're still running this marathon, let's just look to the side as we're all jogging along and be like, fuck yeah, we just passed that milestone. That is in our rear view mirror now. We don't have to worry about that one anymore. So celebrate that. And then the last thing I want to say is, this is a little bit of a pump. So just forgive me, but the thing that Knock was just saying is actually the problem that you guys heard me 2 weeks ago talking about thousands, that I'm so passionate to solve, because the thing that we were talking about earlier, which is putting millions of dollars into the hands of streamers to have them promote your game, it's so fucking broken right now. Listen to how Knock described that. Like, not only can those streamers not play the games that they might otherwise want to play because the channel metaphor, the limited, like one-dimensional metaphor of channels on Twitch and YouTube is so fucking broken that they can't do that without starting a whole other channel, right? So that's just like fundamentally, like, that has to be solved. That is ridiculous. And 2, there is no way for an AVAX or whoever's funding the marketing of this to actually get more millions of dollars into the hands of the smaller mid-tier streamers who would happily bring 1,000 concurrents instead of 5,000 concurrents like a Ninja or a Shroud or whatever. But they can't get that premier deal with AVAX, or it's really hard. There's no system or platform for doing that. So all they have to do is fall back on like YouTube ads and hoping they can get paid for that. And it's so broken. If a platform came along and fixed those 2 things, I just, that's what we're really passionate about, what we're trying to build as well. So anyway, just wanted to underline that.
Yeah, that was a great rant, and I would expand on that if we had time. But all I'll
No,
say
it's okay. I took 40 minutes 2 weeks ago on that, on thousands. So yeah, but thank you.
It's a great topic, dude. What I'll just add to it is to say it's not just Twitch. Like, we have a dance channel with 13 million subscribers on YouTube, and if we post anything that is not a dance video, killed, dead in the water, like, might as well have just fucking shot our channel in the face, because it's not going to do anything. If anything, it harms the channel algorithm, blah 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 blah. So it's a fundamental issue across social media platforms right now. Let's go to OG, who's here with us in real life in Buenos Aires, the founder of Games GG.
Yeah, just first of all, I wanted to say, Knock, it was fun to have original opinions for like a couple of weeks, but I really missed you, and I'm glad you're here. I will happily sit in the back seat and just listen to you like school everyone and take everyone's opinions and kind of articulate them better than anyone else. But yeah, just wanted to say that I missed you. And then to Paul's point, because I just wanted to clarify this, because I feel like it's been going around for quite some time, and I don't want teams to get into this illusion that Avalanche is the entity behind paying all of that money to like Ninja and Tim the Tapman and all these, creators. A chunk, if not majority, if not most, if not the entirety of that budget was actually off the grid's like own marketing spend. And I think, you can ask Coop or anyone from the team to attest to that. So, because I just saw a bunch of like, posts saying, oh, why is like, XYZ chain not putting as much money into their games, and like Avalanche is really in the forefront of this whole industry because they decided to spend millions on Ninja and these content creators. I think Avalanche is supporting in a different way, in a very, I guess, Avalanche relevant way, but to go out of their way to like spend millions on these content creators is just not something they would normally do. So I just want people to not get carried away, and I don't want other like chains to also get really confused and and start wondering how the fuck Coop's spending all this money.
Yeah, I did see Gabe put out a couple of tweets about that, praising Avalanche for the money that he presumed that they spent. So interesting to get that cleared up. We're going to go through the last two hands, and then just to let people know, we have to end at the 30. We're going to get kicked out of this location, and then it's going to be extremely loud whenever we leave because there's a lot of Avalanche Summit goers outside of this room. So I'm going to go to Will, Sinjin, and then we'll squeeze in one more topic before the end of today's show.
Yeah, I just wanted to bounce off of Knock and Paul's points on streamers and what games they're playing and what games they're recommending and the distinction between the two. I think the discourse around streamers and around paid marketing and KOLs has gotten very out of touch with the end user because gamers aren't stupid. They know when they're being shilled, and we're seeing a lot of success with streamers who are identifying themselves as being paid to do things. But at the end of the day, when that market gets oversaturated to a point where people just want honest opinions and honest reviews, gamers go there. And I think that and I'm excited to see how Paul and Thousands is be able to that. I think they're going to be a better for game balance and honest, and people can find games they love and hear people really lives.
Thanks so much for saying that, man. I'm just really passionate, like you guys all are, for solving real problems, and it's so cool that there's a real set of problems that we can help solve and make better here. That's my favorite thing.
Sinjin, sending it over to you, and then Theo, the man himself from Gunzilla, joining us here in real life as well as on the panel. Going to give him a chance to speak to it as well. But Sinjin, over to you first, bud.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love having Paul here because, I feel like not that to patronize another adult in the room, but he also gives me perspective on how I should treat you guys instead of peons, like maybe my staff, but which is kind of worse because I treat my staff even fucking worse. Jerry can attest to that. That's why he left me. If
Oh,
I
he's
was
a
going to
teddy
say
bear.
this to my, yeah, if I was to address this to my idiot staff, who I love, who are not idiots, but I would say, look, you dumb fuckers are like thinking of this as like a snapshot. Like, where is it at right now? And that's the wrong way to look at it. It's what Paul said, like about, and what Oliver said. Like, we know that if a Web3 game is good now, like it can actually work. It's not a barrier. And so the implications of this are that when Ubisoft fucked up and EA or whatever that's been looking at it. And we know that all the executives have been looking at this as like the next money grab or whatever like that. The implications are if they are with their eyes on this, which they do, they've realized the same thing. And now all these major studios are kicking into gear, possibly to come into the space as well, because they see, yo, let's lead with the game first. Let's lead with a good game first. And then it's fucking possible. And that's why this moment will be a pivotal moment in Web3 history. Will it be bigger than Axie? Who knows? But that's besides the point. The main point is that in terms of the impact for mainstream adoption, it's fucking here, kids.
Great take from Sinjin. Theo, trying to add you to the panel, might be having some Twitter issues. Wanted to give you a chance to speak on this. The origin of the topic was Axie Infinity or Gunzilla. What is a bigger moment? We had Gabe Leydon say that he thinks that Off the Grid and what it's accomplished in the past week is the new quote-unquote Axie moment and already potentially more impactful than what we saw Axie Infinity do back in 2017. I know that being so close to the project, you might not be able to comment too much on this, but if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear from you, brother.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for putting this together. But second of all, Axie and Infinity, and not to hurt anyone's sensibilities, but was glorified staking. So there is really no comparison between a real game that actually entertains gamers and creates a really, really immersive experience to, in essence, glorified staking. So that's one. Two, very importantly, Axie Infinity never reached mainstream level beyond impressing people at the absurd returns that people were getting early on. We just had an article that was completely organic in Forbes that mentioned crypto in a positive light in connection to what Gonzilla has accomplished. That has never happened before in Web3, period. So to even remotely compare these two is not quite, correct. Now, having said that, in terms of the impact on the industry, yes, Axie had massive impact on engaging. In this case, I believe it was roughly 10 million wallets with a Web3 project. In this case, a Web3 glorified staking project. Now, out of the 10 million wallets, I don't know exactly what the percentages were, but the majority were simply speculators, not actual gamers. If you can even call, again, what Axie did gaming. In our case, as you saw, obviously 3.5 million wallets added over the last 7 days alone. These are all people that, for the most part, don't even care about blockchains in any kind of specific sense. The technology that is utilized isn't relevant. What is relevant is the experience that they're having during their gaming session. And then, of course, they get introduced to this really, really cool thing, i.e. the marketplace, where they can trade their items, they can buy items, they can extract items and sell their items. At that point in time, they are fully engaged with a blockchain without even knowing it. So in my opinion, that in and of itself is infinitely more impactful for the industry as a whole to moving us towards massive mainstream adoption than anything that any other project, quite frankly, not just Axie, has done before. So that's my quick take on it.
Appreciate you joining us tremendously, Theo. A great comment from Arrow in the comments. He says, Axie and OTG are both incredible milestones for the space in their own way. We've made it to PC, Android, iOS, console. The tech is behind the scenes, but the value add is intangible. Just to see big Web2 creators accept it in some way is massive. Now, Will's, to my right, has unironically been fist pumping while Theo has been talking because I think he's so excited about what he had to say. Will's, over to you, buddy.
You heard it from Theo. This is how the people who are moving the space forward are thinking. I don't need to say anything.
Drop the mic. Arrow is going to get a whitelist for that God Vault NFT, courtesy of Infinite Gods. We got one more topic on today's show, but real quick, it's time to give a massive shout out to the true MVP behind the scenes, Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified. While others are banging their heads against the wall trying to make their blockchains work, Avalanche has cracked the code with AVAX 9000, making deploying your own L1 smoother than ever before. But why stop at just any blockchain whenever you can have your very own? With Avalanche, you're not just playing someone else's game, you're setting the rules for yourself. It's not just a pipe dream. This is the reality that giants like Off the Grid are already living. They're creating custom, tailored gaming experiences on their own Avalanche L1s, free from the usual developer headaches. And as we reach the midpoint of our galactic mission, it's time to highlight the essential part of your gaming arsenal, StarNet, the questing platform. The StarNet is revolutionizing how you earn in the Web3 universe. It's not just a platform platform. Sorry, I messed up this ad read. We got some changes on the StarNet ecosystem. They do the best ad tech in all of Web3 gaming. Unfortunately, I moved this stuff around. I love you guys. That's all I'm gonna say there. We're gonna move on to the last topic of the day. Sorry, guys. Azra Games just raised $42 million in a Series A. Bullish or bullshit? They claim this money is going to be spent to lead the charge in the next evolution of mobile RPGs. Some people claim that Web3 games are notoriously overfunded. However, some mobile games have AAA budgets like Honkai Star Rail and its $400 million budget. Of course, this is the successor to Genshin Impact originally. This in particular, this number I find interesting at this time in the market because Illuvium did a Series A raise, I believe, about 3 months ago. Illuvium, of course, has a ton of funding. I think they raised about $70 million from VCs, and then they also had their land sale that was about $70 million. And their Series A was only $10 million. Azra, a mobile game that has no product that we've seen to this point, is dwarfing that by over 4x with $42 million raised for a mobile game. They haven't selected a chain, but of course, Mark Otero was the creator of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which raised $1 billion or had $1 billion in revenue. I'm curious what people's perspective is on a mobile game Series A raising $42 million at this stage in the market, and if you guys think it's bullish or bullshit. Sinjin has the hand up first. Over to you, brother.
I don't know whether you can say it's bullish or bullshit, but what I can say is that, Mark is fucking hardcore. And I think if you read their press release, and you look at what he's really saying, it's not a Web3 thing or whatever like that. I think he is fucking embarking to basically remake how we look at like mobile games in terms of how robust and their depth is, that they could be competitive at that PC game level. And so whatever monster that they're creating will be a fucking, smashing like Hulk Frankenstein here, just massive. And so I think in terms of like what they're raising, that pretty much falls in line with, the attempt at what they're going to do. How does that work out? Again, I think Mark is a fucking beast. So like, I reckon I wouldn't bet against him. But in terms of like, is it bullish for Web3? Like, I mean, Azra has been really doing their own thing for the last like, yeah, I don't know, a year and a half or so like this. So like, I don't really have a comment on that particular part.
Yeah, doing your own thing can obviously be something that people sort of take offense to in the sense of like Gabe Leydon, Digidagaku. And then other cases, of course, with Off the Grid being the topical example here, they did their own thing and now we're celebrating them and obviously all the success that they're having. Let's go to Knock next.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Sinjin here. I think it's difficult to say bullish or bullshit because if there's one thing that I've learned over the last 5 years or so, um, the announcement of a funding raise doesn't really mean anything relative to the timing of when those funds were acquired. We don't know if this is a previous fundraise, if this is a combination of a couple of different rounds that have happened, if this is a net new raise. All of those different scenarios mean wildly different things. If it's a new raise and they raised $42 million and Pantera led it, to me that screams token is coming because Pantera loves their fucking tokens. But I would make the argument, and my belief here is that this is probably a combination of a couple of previous rounds that they're announcing at an opportune time, make themselves look really good. To Sinjin's point, this is an incredible team. You want good teams like this to have funding to be able to do the things that they want to do and know how to do. You've just mentioned it. We've seen this happen in real time with Off the Grid, a true S tier team doing their own thing for the better portion of the last 3 or 4 years in the Web3 space, a boatload of funding, and we see what can happen when you enable good teams with a sizable budget and you give them time to develop their thing outside of the public spotlight that is, Web3. So I'm bullish on Azra Games. I'm bullish that they've acquired more funding. I don't think that this announcement means anything in the short to intermediate term other than a good team has more money and more runway and will continue to develop a game that will hopefully at some point in the future be a great game that we're all talking about in the same light that we're talking about Off the Grid. I don't think this announcement means anything.
Couple of quick clarifying points there. They say total raised $68 million. And you mentioned Pantera, Knock. Yeah, Pantera looks like it led the round. A16Z and NFX also involved there. Let's go to Jerry next.
Yeah, I think I think it's mostly bullish, in that if you like playbooks and you like talented teams that don't have to be beholden to constantly releasing NFTs for money, and you want to give a talented team some time to just build. I think we've all spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks talking about a team that did exactly that and maybe showed that there is a path forward that you can be successful in by just having a fuck ton of money and being given time to, as the kids say, cook. So yeah, I think this definitely means there's like tech coming, like infrastructure tech. I could talk about this. I think just go. Sparksy literally just tweeted about this. Probably better to go hear it from a smart dude like him. But yeah, I think this definitely means there's going to be a bunch of tech that comes that they're probably going to license out, and infrastructure is probably on the way pretty soon.
Wills, what's your take, buddy?
I'm going to rehash a couple of the takes that were discussed before the panel. So credit to Coop and Hentao and the other people we were chatting with then. But I think, this is a mobile game, so we have to be thinking about how do mobile games traditionally spend, and the majority of that is usually on marketing. And the fact of the matter is, while they're still building now, and the launch is probably a way off, this amount isn't enough to compete on the mobile stage with the amount of performance marketing you need. And why that excites me is that could mean that they're looking to compete on some other level. They're looking to have a different dynamic that they approach mobile with. And the analogy that I used is they have a choice between becoming, Infinity Blade or Raid's Shadow Legends. And it looks to me, whether it's from a tech perspective, a narrative perspective, a monetization perspective, that they're going to do something unique, and they really want to shake up the way that mobile gaming is operating at the moment, because the system is clearly broken. And I think that the investments from large players who know the space,
Interesting takes.
at least do, is good's going to be different. So I'd say
It's a weird delay between Wills in real life and Wills on the space. Sorry about that, guys. Lems, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, weird. There was just like a slight lag there across the board. Yeah, I think overall bullish for the space, right? We've seen, gaming take a bit of a backseat in recent months. People get a little bit disheartened. I know that was all kind of like changed with Off the Grid over the last week or so, and people getting a lot more excited. But I think seeing this sort of a raise come out is bullish overall for the space, because people look at these things as signals too, right? I don't know if anyone remembers Proof of Play did their raise and coming out of the end of the bear there, and it was like a 33 million, and it was actually raised from like way before. But them announcing it at that point, everyone got so excited. Oh my God, gaming is so back. People are excited. Like, it's a big fat raise. It was like 33 mil or something like that. Now here we have like a 42 mil, and we have like Off the Grid in the sentiment right now. So I think overall, in terms of signaling and people looking at Web3 gaming and maybe taking it a bit more seriously, I think that's overall positive. It's funny what Jerry mentioned about Sparksy, because I was going to reference that too. So Jerry clearly has notifications on for Sparksy as well. And definitely go check out that tweet, because I think he makes a lot of valid points, and he looks a lot of the time at valuations in the space. And a lot of the time, when you get these really high valuations, it's because you're not just a game. You're having some kind of infrastructure offering or something else behind the scenes as well that's not public knowledge yet. So I definitely think there's probably something like that coming out of there, even though they could totally just spend that money on UA when they actually come to launch the game. There's probably something else happening behind the scenes. So, TBD what that is, but I'm sure we'll see it before too long. Overall, though, I think bullish for the space. The space likes to see big numbers, and gaming is so back. Web3 gaming is inevitable.
Well, speaking of seeing big numbers, we got through that topic a little bit faster than I thought we would. So I'm going to try to squeeze one more in. I want to get people's gut reaction to what Sinjin is doing with UNCHI, the meme token. Clearly, there is a token that is unrelated to this, perceivably coming in the future with MAYG and the game that he has, the NFT collections, etc. But Sinjin trying to capitalize on the attention that meme culture tends to bring to tokens is hoping to potentially leverage that into attention for his game by releasing a token that he has clearly stated both the tokenomics around, as well as saying that this has absolutely no utility, making it a quote unquote meme token. I'm curious what your guys' perspective is on this approach to, I guess, acquiring attention, and then what you think the likelihood might be in being able to use that as a top of funnel to being able to sort of redirect attention back to the game. One nuance that I think is important to add here, if anybody isn't familiar with MAYG, is that it is a turn-based game that operates on fairly low specs. So because of that, it might have a higher ability to be used as a top of funnel versus something that is, like off the grid where it requires a PC with a 3070 or better. Lems, over to you.
I won't comment specifically on this meme coin strategy itself, but I just think overall bucking the trend and trying to do something different is always interesting, right? I'm going to reference like Xborg, even though it's totally not related to meme coins. But I think what they did, a few weeks ago, they decided to say like fuck centralized exchanges, fuck market makers, and all this sort of stuff became their narrative and launched without that. And now that the token dumped initially and then it pulled I don't know, like a 6 or 8x off the lows, and now everyone's talking about Xborg. And now it's like everyone's looking at that as another strategy. So this could be the exact same situation here with MAYG. Maybe, maybe not. Time will tell when we see with this UNCHI token and the meme coin narrative. But I think it's it takes a lot of balls to put yourself out there and do something that is totally against the grain. It's not what other people are doing. You have to sort of chart your own path. But then if it's successful and if it works well, you can be damn sure a lot of people are going to be trying to mimic that same success.
Paul had the hand up next.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Sinjin's got bigger balls than any of y'all. I'm channeling a little Sinjin here because I think he would say this about himself if he were talking about somebody else doing the same thing that he's doing. So I'm going to try to channel that. You fucking wankers don't have the guts to pull off what Sinjin is doing here. I wish I had the guts. I don't even have big balls as Sinjin has. It's amazing. He's innovating. He's doing something that is agile, fast, meeting the market where it's at. And getting it done and not taking any prisoners. So fuck yeah. How was that?
Yeah, Sinjin.
Was that Sinjin enough?
We're about to find out, Sinjin. Out of 1 to 10, what do you rate Paul's impression of you?
Yeah, definitely a 10. It's all about the balls, and Paul really got it right on the head of the. Not trying to make a pun. Let's stop the punning right there before I get myself in trouble. Yeah, we're getting traction, and it's working. And even if it works somewhat a little bit for our game, which is really, really unique IP, a totally, original PC game. And our specs are fucking crazy, actually. We had to do so much fucking engineering for it because it's basically a pure physics game. It's working. I've gone meme coin influencers from Solana who are big names reached out to me, and they're like, well, we know you, Sinjin, from this and that and whatever like that. And, we're interested. Zai, how do you bridge there? And I've onboarded not a lot of people, but I have onboarded people onto Zai. And as a flagship game for Zai, and ultimately the Arbitrum ecosystem, I think we've already gone and win here. Now, it was a lot of work, but we could have made a Telegram game first, which we already started, and then launched the meme coin through the Telegram group, and that was the original plan. But I realized something, and it might have been Nog coming out of his coma to inspire me, was that I wrote this before, that I had this 3-token strategy or thesis that. What if you abstracted the tokens, right? And then you use the meme coin for UA attention, especially for traders, not for gamers. Because ultimately, when you do launch your TGE and you're on a DEX, right? I mean, who's going to really put the volume in? Is the gamers going to put the volume in, or the crypto day traders? And that's the crypto day traders. And I know this for a fact. Other than Xborg and Super and maybe 1 or 2 other gaming tokens, most crypto game traders, they think that Web3 gaming is ass, in terms of trading. So where are you gonna get the volume from? I mean, Jay from Genopets always says this, and this is the biggest reason why everyone says you have to be on a CX. But what if you're not going to be on a CX, especially with the utility token? And so the next part of that was that, our utility token is only going to be at 800 FTV because why? The game mints the token, right? And then later on, if we do need to make a governance token for growth for the ecosystem, then we do it the way that it should be done. based off of revenues, just like any other company, showing that, we've already achieved these like real metrics and we need to grow because we have shown product market fit. So like it's this kind of thing where there's the meta and stuff like this, and I look at it and I try to understand like what is the source of the meta, what is the theme here. I'm not like trying to look at the instances, because in crypto what I've learned, and especially Web3 as well, the meta comes and goes so quickly that by the time that you think it's a good meta, it's already too late, especially as game developers, when it takes us time to make the development happen and kind of figure it out. And so like if I was gonna go fucking balls deep in this shit, man, I was like, fuck, let's fucking do it. And it literally, from the time of conception to the time of execution, it was less than 3 weeks. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but it's an experiment, that's working so far. So again, I wrote in the Wolves Telegram that like if anyone wanted any advice, or like I'm gonna write a case study about this just to kind of see like what happened. But doing it TGE before our main TG actually also gave me a lot of learnings as well. So for that, I think it's been really good. And also, if we're talking about conversion, anyone who's made a comment up to this point, we will DM you and we'll drop you 10,000 UNCHI tokens, as long as you have a what do you call it, EVM compatible like MetaMask or whatever like that. And fuck, now I'll probably just onboarded like 40 more people there, which I didn't have the option to do before, because I was always thinking if I did that with my utility token or I did that with my NFT, I couldn't do that because I'm going to bear this liability against my actual game economy. But now I can fucking do it. So yeah, those are my fucking balls on your fucking face.
Fuck yeah.
Jesus. All right, real quick, we got a bunch of God Vault whitelists to give out. I'm going to give them all out right now to a bunch of people that retweeted the space. Appreciate you guys, as I accidentally locked my computer and can't see who it is. It's Black Panther, it's Clicks, it's Jack on Tilt, and Evolved. Thank you guys so much for your support of the space. Thank you to all of our amazing panelists. We're getting kicked out of this room right now, so we're going to try to migrate. I know Jay is trying to come up as a speaker. I think I might need to boot somebody to make space for him. Dub has the hand up. We'll send it over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I talked to Sinjin one-on-one about this whole meme token launch while he was deep into it, and I was candid with him that I was terrified for the lad. And like ever since that conversation, I've just been freaking blown away. Like the level of depth that you've dove into, and you just about killed yourself to do this whole thing. But I think it was really worth it. It makes me like wonder, like, fuck, I mean, we have Sigma and Shrapnel. Should we make the Sigma meme token? Like it's a very, very good use case. And I'm looking forward to this case study you put together. It's yeah, like I really did not expect it to go as well as it's already gone so far. And it's just fascinating where it can go from here. And Sinja, I just wanted to give you public flowers, man, because I told you to your face I was really worried, and you turned around and put your balls on my face. So props to you, man.
Yeah, but all the rest of you chumps listening, don't think that you can all be a Chad like Sinjin. Like if you're not Sinjin, I don't know if you could have pulled it off like he did, but
Jay from Genopets joining us from the audience. I know he's a man who's taken a bunch of unique approaches in the Web3 space as well. Curious for your perspective.
I am so glad we came here. I was gonna try and come up earlier for the OTG or the Azra talk, but honestly, you guys crushed that conversation, so I just kept listening in the background. Congrats, Theo. I haven't met you yet, but I'm really glad you came up here too. That was cool to hear from you. I gotta say, Sinjin, I've been off the grid, no pun intended, for the last couple of weeks. Some of you know I had a kid, so I just shut off my notifications and did that for a minute. I missed this. I missed this in the works ahead of time because I haven't talked to you in too long. But I was looking at your tweets and everything going on in the last couple 48 hours since I've been back on online, and I cannot believe you pulled this off. This is a masterpiece of like take something you know is working to get all the degen attention and funnel that attention directly towards your IP on a chain that nobody's meme coining yet, on a chain that, quite frankly, like, yes, everyone knows Psy and Arb, but like it's just not the thing. You could have done this on Solana and it probably wouldn't have worked, quite frankly. Like this is there's so many things that you just did right here. The piece that I think, and maybe chalk it up to what you were saying earlier about OTG, was like, yes, this is the start. You got a meme coin out, you got it to pump for a minute. What do you do with it? How do you keep the attention? How do you funnel that attention? I think is what's going to be up next. I've been screaming at everybody about Telegram games for the last 6 months, and I think we're facing a lot of the same problem too, which is like, sure, I got 1 million people a month playing my game. We got a bunch of attention, and yes, it maybe helped a little bit to raise the to remind people that Genopets is still a thing, but funneling that attention is so hard, and getting that to drive towards your actual TG and your actual players, I think is what I would love to have a further conversation about that and different ways that you can make that work, and some of the things that I've seen not work for Telegram recently. Next time we have a Telegram space, I got some slightly bearish takes on the way that ecosystem is panning out, that I think you may end up seeing in the same place, or in a similar vein to how the meme coin has taken off for you so far. But congrats, bro! This is a masterpiece. Nobody can just go and do this. Like you gotta be balls deep in a lot of different trenches to figure out how to orchestrate something like this.
Theo has the hand up. I'm going to send it to him, and then we are getting kicked out because the conference is shutting down. I'm going to have to jet in a sec.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. Really, really appreciate it. I'll say two things before we peace out on this conversation. Number one, I think we should start adding some female founders to these spaces. There's way too many references to balls and people being balls deep things. So we really need some female energy here. That's one. Two, guys, what you've seen right now is literally less than 20% of what's coming. There's so much more coming. We're just getting warmed up. Watch the next content pack dropping next month. It's going to blow everyone away. Very relevant to the current times. You'll see. Can't say anything more about that. But just know that this is just the beginning. One very, very, very faithful and memorable conversation that I had with our founder, Vlad Korolev, 3 years ago when I first joined the team, was when I said, hey, wow, there's a lot of work. By the way, it's been 5 years, right? It's a lot of work. I got like years of work. He's like, Theodore, doesn't matter. Like, there's a lot of work, right? But the real work starts after we launch. And we just launched last Tuesday. So the real work starts now, guys. Lots of stuff coming. Thanks so much, guys, for having me here. Cheers.
Thanks,
Theodore,
Theo.
you might not know this, but my best fan base is the middle-aged ladies. So, they like how I speak. So I'm just speaking out to my fan base. So just to let you know that, brother.
No, dude, the middle-aged ladies are all for me and the words of friends. So don't even try to encourage.
Oh wow! Actually, Paul got you there, Sinjin. I'm sorry. You might have the Asian fucking outdoors coming
I got
out
the
for you,
middle
but,
aged.
like,
You're proving his point actively. It's terrible. Get some women up here. We need it.
I'm gonna
Katie
just
will happily join the panel and make balls jokes with all of us. By the way,
I'm gonna just end that with a big yikes and say, as we near the finish line of another epic episode of Gamified, it's time to pay tribute to the unsung hero of the show, Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified. Avalanche has been quietly revolutionizing the gaming world, making sure that anyone with a vision can turn it into a reality with their groundbreaking Avalanche 9000 technology. It's never been easier, cheaper, or more powerful to deploy your own layer 1 blockchain. Plus, keep an eye out for the AVAX Summit in Buenos Aires. If you're not here, you're missing out. So what the hell are you doing? And as we bring this wild ride to a close, let's give one last salute to the stellar sponsor, StarNet, the ad tech ace leading the charge to a new era. Say goodbye to a greedy gatekeepers and a hello to a network where you call the shots. That's right, StarNet is a decentralized ad network where games and apps get all the glory, not some soulless suits. It's the revolution of revenue, the future of fairness, and the ultimate upgrade to advertising. Thank you to StarNet, our official infrastructure. We also didn't have a chance to choose the MVP of the episode because it's Knock. And if you choose anybody other than Knock, you're dead to me. That's going to do it for today's episode of Gamified. I'll give Knock 30 seconds of FaceTime, and now we're on the streets of Buenos Aires, so we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Knock. Marry me.
Yo, Knock dropped from speaking.
That did not work. I'm rejected.
Twitter is dead to me. I love you guys. We'll see you next week,
Peace.
same time, same place, for another episode of Gamified. Episode 90.